So you've built an AI agent. It can reason, it can plan, but then you ask it to get real-time data from the web and everything breaks. You're hit with rate limits, CAPTCHAs, JavaScript roadblocks, or worse, the site just outright blocks you, meaning you can't get the data you need. If that sounds familiar, then keep watching. In this video, I'm going to show you something different, an MCP server that's designed specifically for getting web data to AI agents. Now, this is Bright Data's MCP server, and I've been testing it for a while. This can scrape almost any website at scale in real time, and it's smart enough to work with tools like Claude, LangChain, and custom AI agents. But before I get into the demo and show you how to set this up, first, let's talk about what MCP servers are and why they're important in 2025. So what is MCP? Well, MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and in short, this is a protocol that allows AI agents to communicate seamlessly with tools and various resources. Now, I actually made an entire video on this topic in case you want to learn more. I'll put it on screen here, but recently all kinds of companies have been building MCP servers that us as developers or just AI users can utilize. So that's one of the ones I'm going to show you today. Again, Bright Data's MCP server, who's actually been a long-term partner of this channel and who I teamed up with for this video. Now, the tools that I'll show you in this video are not just a simple proxy or another basic web scraper. These really allow your agent to have ungated access to the web and to actually control a web browser and perform very complex operations. A lot of the other web scraping you've probably seen done by a lot of these AI agents, it works for basic tasks, but it can't handle complex sites. It gets blocked quite a bit, and with these tools, you can pretty much overcome all of those issues. So with that in mind, let's go over to the demo. I'm going to show you all the tools you have access to. I'm going to show you how to connect it to Claude Desktop as a tutorial, and then I'm going to show you how to write a custom AI agent in Python that can utilize these tools or really connect to any MCP server so that you get a ton of value. With that in mind, let's get over to the demo. So as I mentioned, I am using Bright Data's MCP server. If you want to check out the documentation for yourself, I'll leave a link to this GitHub repository in the description, but it's very easy to set up and I'm going to show you how it works. Now, what I want to do is just go over to Claude Desktop. I'm going to show you a few examples of runs that I've done and the tools you have access to, and then I'll show you how to set it up so you can test it for yourself. So from Claude Desktop, I've already configured the tools, but in a second, I'll remove them and then re-add them, but I just want to show you what ones you get access to. So if I look at the tools here in Claude Desktop, because I'm now using Bright Data's MCP, you can see that we have 18 tools that I have access to here. So I can scrape as HTML, I can scrape as Markdown, I can do a browser click, I can get the HTML from a browser, I can get text, I can go back, go forward, I can grab links, and then I have specific ones, for example, for things like Amazon, for grabbing Amazon products or reviews, because that's pretty popular. Things for LinkedIn, for example, okay? So there's all kinds of tools here, also search engine as well, and really the power is that you give these tools to the LLM or to the AI agent, it can use all of them in sequence, and it can perform some really complex operations. So rather than simply just visiting a page and grabbing all of the HTML, it can interact with buttons. So the LLM can actually use these tools. It can create a remote browser instance that will get past all of the blocks or CAPTCHAs you might run into. It can navigate through the page and do really complex operations by interacting with the page and figuring it out in real time. So if there's a mistake or a pop-up appears, it can see that, and then it can actually look at that, remove the pop-up, and move to the next page. So this is much more than just like a simple web scraping script, as you're going to see. So I have a few prompts here. Now, I already ran them because it does take a few minutes because there is a lot of operations that this will do, but let's have a look at this example here. So I said search Amazon for noise canceling headphones, click on the top 2 product listings. For each product, extract the following, and then I have a few things that I want, and then, return a ranked list of 5 products based on the combination. And I just want to show you kind of what the AI agent did when I gave it access to these tools. So first thing it did is it said, okay, we're going to go to search engine here, and we're going to search for noise canceling headphones on Amazon. So it did that. It got a bunch of information here, and then it kind of parsed all that data. Again, probably only something that like an LLM can do. It says, okay, I'm going to go to the top noise canceling headphone links now. So okay, I'm going to open up a new browser, going to go to this page, scraped this particular page, got the information, and then it said, okay, I want to get like the links on this page. So it got all these selectors, went there and grabbed all of the links, and then it said, okay, I'm going to click on the products on this page, right? And it went to a particular product, and then open that up and then use the scraping browser, got a bunch of text, right? Or that one actually failed, I think. So it went to something else. It said, okay, we're going to use this web data Amazon one instead. And you can keep going and you can see there's a bunch of stuff that it did, but it grabbed a bunch of different entries. And then as I scroll down here, you can see it kind of gave me a summary of all of the information. And if I pop open the side page here, it gave it to me in a structured format that I could then either store or use or pass to another AI agent. Again, really good for the AI application to have it kind of in that JSON format. Now, another example I want to show you is using this to get data from Reddit. So Reddit is notoriously difficult to scrape because it always blocks all of the bots. Even me as a human, a lot of time, it blocks me from even accessing the page. But here with Bright Data's MCP, we are able to access it. So I told it, search Reddit for recent posts about LangChain and AI agents, give me the top 3 relevant posts from the past 7 days, extract all of this information, analyze the sentiment, etc. Okay, so it was able to do this. You can see that it went search engine, looked on Reddit, okay, scraped some stuff as markdown, and then it did this like a bunch of times. So kept scraping as markdown for comments for different posts. Let me look at the comments from one of these posts. Go down here and you can see we get the information. Search engine, again, boom, search something else up. Like it's doing all these different steps. I'm not going to walk through all of them. And then you can see it gives me a summary. It says, okay, here we go. First topic we found, how do companies use LangChain in production? Gave us a link to the URL of where that post is. We have the subreddit, number of upvotes, number of comments, top comment, sentiment analysis. The post is neutral. The comments are this. Found one about AI agents. 10 AI agent papers you should read from March 2025. I won't go through this. Another one, anyone building AI agents for enterprises, same thing. And then it went down here and gave us analysis of all of these posts. Now I'm just doing these for small examples for a few posts so that it runs like in a minute or two. But obviously you could just have this continuously running at scale for like an army of AI agents, because the way that Bright Data works is that you can do web scraping at scale. You don't just have access to one browser instance, you can spin up as many of them as you need. So theoretically, if you wanted to have like 500 AI agents that all had some tasks they were doing related to web data, you could do that, and in sync, like at the same time in parallel, they could all be scraping the web utilizing these types of tools. There's a bunch of other examples that you can give this. You can look up, what's the weather? What's the most recent post on a website? But I wanted to show you some more advanced ones so you can see kind of the step-by-step process when you use especially an LLM like Claude 3.7. Now what I want to do though is show you how you can set this up on your own machine so that you can start taking advantage of this. And then again, we're going to get into a code demo where I'm going to show you how to write some code in Python that connects to this MCP server so you can build it in your own custom AI agents. All right, so let's get started here. I'm going to show you how you can connect it to Claude. Now, all of the information you need is from this GitHub repo. So again, you can check it out from below, but I'm going to walk you through the steps. Pretty much what you need to do is you just need to add an MCP server configuration to Claude. So first step, you're going to download Claude Desktop. If you're using Claude, I assume most of you probably are. This will work on Mac, Linux, Windows, doesn't matter. Just download it so that you have it on your computer, okay? I already have Claude Desktop. If you don't have it already, you can just go to Claude Desktop and then you can sign in with your Claude account and you're just using it from your own computer rather than using it from the web. Okay, now once we have Claude Desktop, what we need to do is make a new account on Bright Data, and we then need to get our API key so we can start accessing some of the web scraping or just kind of services that Bright Data has. So what I'm going to do is go to Bright Data. Okay, this is the page. I'll leave a link to it below. And in fact, the link I leave below should give you some free credits here so that you can use this for free. Anyways, what I'm going to do is go to my dashboard. So once you create an account, it should just bring you there, but I can click on User Dashboard. Okay, ignore that. And what I'm able to do here is make a new scraping zone and then get my Bright Data API key. So let me show you how this works. We're going to go to proxies and scraping, and we're going to go to add, and we're going to add a new web unlocker API. Okay, so we're going to click on web unlocker API here. We're going to give this a name, call it anything that you want. I'll just call it web unlocker for right now. For the zone, you can give it a description if you want, and we will enable the CAPTCHA solver. We're then just going to go ahead and press on add. Okay, I don't need a summary of this, so that's fine. We'll click on yes. Wait a second for this to boot up, and then we'll move to the next step. Okay, so from here, what we're going to use is our API token, but before we copy that, we're going to add the configuration into Claude. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back here to the documentation for, what do you call this here? Bright Data's MCP server. we're going to copy this right here under the Quick Start with Claude Desktop section. We can just copy this exact command, and then what we can do is we can paste this in our configuration and we can fill in some of these fields. Now, in order for this to work, you are going to need Node.js installed on your computer. It has the link right from the docs here, but just install Node.js. I assume a lot of you probably already have it, because what's going to happen is Claude is going to run this command that we specify here. It's going to spin up the MCP server or the MCP client really for us, so we're able to actually connect to it and use these tools. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go into Claude. From Claude, you need to get into your Claude developer settings. Now, depending if you're on Mac or Windows, this is a little bit different. So I'm going to go up to the menu here. I'm going to click on Claude. I'm going to click on settings. Okay, so you just need to get into the Claude settings. From here, we're going to go to developer, and then we're going to press on edit config. Okay, so from edit config, it's going to bring us this file. It's either going to open it for you, it's going to show it to you in your Finder or Explorer. So you need to open this file, Claude desktop config.json. So I'm going to open this with Sublime Text. You can open this in any text editor that you want. And then from here, we're going to paste in this configuration, okay? So we're just going to paste this in, and we're going to save. Now we're going to leave this file open because we're going to specify a few things here in order for this to work properly. So we're going to go back now to Bright Data. So let me find the platform here. We're going to copy the API token. Obviously, you don't want to leak this to anyone. And we're going to paste this in the variable API token. Okay, now let me make sure I fix my quotation marks, and I think that should be good. Let me add my comma. Okay. Next, we need to specify the web unlocker zone. Okay, now the zone is going to be whatever you named this. So mine, I just called web unlocker. If you called yours something else, then that's what you're going to use for the name. So we're going to come here and we're just going to override the zone name, web unlocker. The last thing we have here is this browser auth. If you want to have some more tools in your disposal and be able to control a remote browser. Now I do, so I'm going to show you how we set that up. Okay, so we're going to go back to Bright Data. We're going to go here to proxies and web scraping. We're going to go to add, and we're now going to add the browser API. Okay, so we're going to press browser API, give this a name. I'll just name it Scraping Browser 4. The name doesn't really matter, and go ahead and press on add. Okay, now that's fine. Let's click on yes. From here, we're just going to need to copy a string and just adjust it a tiny bit. Okay, so for this, what we're going to do is the following. We're going to find this kind of WSS URL that we have here, and we're going to copy the whole thing, and then we're just going to trim a few parts off of it so that it matches with what we have in the documentation. There's a few ways to do this, but I found this is the easiest. Just copy this kind of WSS connection string that you see here. Okay, so copy that. And we're going to go back here and paste it in, and we're just going to remove a few parts of it that we don't need. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this WSS with the colon and the 2 slashes, so get rid of that. And at the end, we're going to get rid of everything after this @ So we're going to have @ brd.superproxy, just remove that, okay, and then hit save. And now we're good. We have the configuration. There's literally nothing more that we need to do. We just need to restart Claude Desktop, and then we should have access to these tools. Okay, so what we're going to do now is close this file. Now that we've added everything, we can kind of close all of this stuff. Now the tools aren't showing up quite yet, as you can see here, because we just need to restart Claude Desktop. So make sure you force quit it. So either force quit it on Mac or force quit it on Windows, okay? And then just reopen it, and it should reload the config. So from here, I'm just going to reopen up Claude. Let me just bring it onto my screen here. And now you can see that we have access to the tools. So now that we have access to the tools, we can just start using these. If we want to test it out, we can say something like, what is tech with Tim's website about? Can you give me a summary? Okay, and then it should start using these tools. So let's see if it does. Give it a second. It says it's going to look it up. Now we're going to need to allow this to use the tool. So we can just say allow for the chat. And then it's going to search engine. It's querying, tech with Tim, website purpose, whatever. It should just find the website ideally for us, and then it should give us a summary. So let's see what it does. Okay, so you can see here it found my website. It looked it up, and then it's kind of giving me a summary here. Tech with Tim, an educational platform created by Tim Rasika, me, software developer and content creator. And then it kind of specifies a lot of the stuff that I have on the site, which is pretty interesting. So there you go. That is kind of testing the tool. You guys can mess with this. I'm sure you can come up with some better examples for your own use case. But next thing that I want to do is show you now how we can use this from code. So let's go open up VS Code and let's start coding this out. From now on, I'm going to take my face off screen so you guys can focus on the code, and let's get into it. All right, so I'm inside of VS Code here. I opened up a new folder. Use any IDE that you want, but just get a new folder open and kind of get ready to go here. Now I'm going to show you how to set this up, and what this code is going to act as is kind of a template that will allow you to connect to any MCP server from your own AI agent. So we're going to use something called LangGraph, which is pretty popular, and something called the LangChain MCP adapters to connect to these tools. I'm not going to write every single line of code from scratch, but I will show you most of the setup and the difficult stuff so that you can get this running on your own computer, mess around with any MCP server that you want. Now, first step here is to install our dependencies, and to do that, I'm going to use something called UV. Now, you may not have used that before. If you haven't, I'm going to leave a link to it in the description. It's very easy to install, and it just acts as a faster version of pip. So this is the website right here. I also have a whole video on UV that I'll leave on screen that shows you how to use this. So from the directory where we want to create this project, we're going to type UV init and then dot to make a new UV project. Again, this is very similar to something like pip. From here, we're just going to install the dependencies that we need. So to do that, we're going to type UV and then add. Now, in terms of the dependencies that we need, we're going to install LangChain, and then this is going to be dash Anthropic. So we can just go ahead and add that one right now. We're going to add, so UV add Python and then .env. So go ahead and add that one in. We then are going to install LangGraph, so LangGraph like that for building the agent. And then lastly, we're going to install the MCP adapters. So we're going to say UV add, and then this is going to be LangChain -MCP -adapters, okay? And we should spell adapters correctly. Go ahead and press enter. And it's giving us some issue here saying LangChain MCP adapters was not found. So let me just make sure I'm spelling this correctly. Okay, so it looks like I spelled it incorrectly or something. So anyways, it's UV add LangChain -MCP -adapters. Yeah, I had one too many A's there that I was typing. So just make sure you spell it correctly. I'm sure you guys are smarter than me and you probably got it the first time. Anyways, that has all now been added to our project. So now that we have that added, what we're going to do is we're going to make a new environment variable file, so a .env file here. And inside of here, we're going to put the environment variables similar to what we had for our Claude configuration. Now, that's because we need to have these environment variables when we run the MCP server. So in order to get those values, again, we can go back to Bright Data and we can copy them in. So we need our API token. So I'm going to go to the MCP unlocker here from Bright Data, and I'm just going to put API _ token is equal to, and then I'm going to paste this value. Now, as well as that, we're going to need the zone name and a few other ones as well. So let me just remember the variables. So we are going to put the web _unlocker _zone. Okay, and this is going to be equal to whatever the name of the zone was. Now, I believe web unlocker is the one that I called it. And then we are going to have the browser _auth. And this is going to be equal to the same thing that we copied previously when we set up Claude. So for the browser auth, we can go here back to Bright Data. We can go to our scraping browser. We can copy the connection string again. And then here we can paste this and just remove the components. So we're going to remove this WSS part. Okay, and then we're going to remove the at the end and everything after that. Okay, so that should be good to go. And then lastly, we need to have our Anthropic API key so that we can use Claude. So we're going to say Anthropic _API _key. I'm just going to paste mine in, but I will quickly show you how you access that in case you haven't gotten this before. Now, keep in mind, you can use any model that you want here. You can use OpenAI, you can use a different model, so long as it can call tools. Okay, so in terms of getting the Anthropic API key, you can go to console.anthropic.com. I know that I keep mispronouncing that. And from this URL right here, you can go to API keys and you can make a new one. You can see that I have a bunch of them. So I just took in one of them already that I'm using, but just make a new one by pressing on create key. Yes, you do need a credit card for this, but it should not cost you anything, or it should cost you like a few cents depending on how much you use it. That's just the way it works with LLMs. You're going to need that. Okay, so now that we have the Anthropic API key, the token, all of this kind of stuff, we should be good to go in terms of the environment variables, and now we can start setting up our main file. So we're going to go into the main.py file. If you don't have one of these already, then go ahead and create one, and inside of here, we can start importing everything that we need. Now, like I said, I'm going to save us a bit of time. I'm just going to kind of copy in chunks of code and explain them, and you can find all of this code from the link in the description. Okay, so I just copied in all of the imports. So you can see we're using this MCP library. We're using the LangChain MCP adapters to load in various tools. We're using the LangChain pre-built kind of agent framework, and then LangChain Anthropic for bringing in our model. So what we're going to do now is we're going to load .env. What that's going to do is load our environment variables so that this will then work when we call the command. And then we're going to initialize our model. So for our model, we can say model is equal to chat Anthropic, and then inside of here we just need to specify the name of the model. So the model that I'm going to use here is going to be one of the newer Claude 3.5 Sonnet models, or I guess not really newer, but just one of the models that I know works. So I'm going to use this 2024 version, but you can use, again, any version you want. You just got to find the correct name. Okay, now after that, what we're going to do is we're going to load in our MCP server, okay? So this is how you can kind of interact with a tool server. In this case, again, we're using the Bright Data one, but you can use any one that you want. And essentially what we're going to do here, you'll see in 1 second when I kind of paste it in, is we're just going to specify the command that we want to run in the background that will load kind of the MCP client, which allows us to connect to the MCP server, and then we're able to use that from inside of this Python script with our AI agent. So I'm going to paste this in here. And you can see that what I have is server parameters, and then I have stdio server parameters, which stands for standard input output. So it means we're running this command on our own computer. So that's why we imported this up here. The command is npx. The environment variables that we need for this command to work properly are the API token, the browser auth, and the web unlocker zone, okay, which are all ones that we have inside of our environment variable, okay? So make sure in the .env file, that you have all of these values. We're grabbing all of these values, which only works because we loaded the environment variable file, and then we have the arguments, which is, okay, this is the MCP server that we want to run. All right, so we have that. Now we essentially just need to build a basic AI agent that can use that and can interact with the tools. All right, so again, I'm just gonna kind of paste in this section here to save us a little bit of time. All right, so I wrote a function here called chat with agent. What this does is it connects to the standard input output client. So we pass our server parameters. And essentially what's happening here now is we're going to be running this kind of background NPM task, and then we're able to connect to it from Python. So this will run that background task for us. Then we create a client that connects to that background task, which is called our session. We await the session initialization, and then from here, we're able to use this load MCP tools function, which comes from this LangChain MCP CAPTCHAs library, and then we can create an agent that uses our model, which is Claude, but could be anything that we want, and, our tools. So very, very simple. We're just using like the basic stuff from LangGraph here. Of course, you can make something more complex. Now we just start with a system message and we say you can use multiple tools in sequence to answer complex questions, think step by step, just to encourage the agent to use multiple of the tools rather than just calling one at a time, which sometimes is common if you don't use some of the thinking models or the better models. Now after this, I just set up a very simple while loop that allows us to just keep kind of running through this agent flow. So we just have some text input. We say while true, you grab the user input, strip the input, make sure they're not saying, exit or quit. And then what we have here is add user messages in history. So we just say messages.append and we add all of the messages that we've specified. And then we can invoke the agent on these messages and it's able to respond to them. So then we essentially get the agent's response. We get the content and we print that out. Now this acts just like the Claude desktop application that we had before, except with our own custom AI agent. We could of course give it access to more tools. We could control the flow. We could do complex stuff here. I'm just giving you a simple kind of Python script that you could then adapt so you can see how you connect it to the MCP server. Now of course we need to call this function. So we're going to say if name is equal to main, then asyncio.run chat with agent. That's going to run this function and our AI agent and allow us to use it. So what we can do now is we can run the code. So to do that, we can type uv run and then main.py. There's multiple other ways to run it, but since we're using uv, this is going to be the easiest way. So we say uv run main.py. Give this a second here to load up. It does need to connect and spin up that background task. Okay, so you can see it says starting server, and then it allows us to type something. So I'm going to say something like, what is techwithtim.net about, just a simple one, so it hopefully will execute quickly, and it should go to that website. Now you might see this error popping up in here. Don't worry about this. It's actually just a warning because recently the MCP protocol has changed slightly, and there's something that's not yet implemented in the Bright Data MCP server, so it's saying, list routes not supported. Don't worry, it doesn't cause any issue. So as you can see here, this actually worked properly, and we kind of just got a warning beforehand because it was trying to access a particular tool that didn't exist. So you can see it says based on search results, I can provide you with the information. And you can see that this is the tool that it used. It used the search engine tool to access techwithtim.net. And then it gave us kind of the same information we got from Claude Desktop. Now, similarly to before, we can give this a task related to Reddit or something, right? So let me just take another more advanced prompt and paste it in here to show you that it's working. All right, so I just pasted this one here. It says search LinkedIn and Indeed for remote AI developer jobs, posted in the last 7 days, access the top 2 listings. For each job, extract all of this, return the listings as structured JSON array, then summarize the most common required skills, okay? So you can see now it's starting to use this. It says, okay, we're gonna execute this URL, we're executing this other URL, search engine tool finish, and it's just gonna go and do all of this stuff. So once this is finished, I'll be right back and then we can see the result of this, sorry. All right, so this took a second here, did a bunch of calls as you can see, and then it gave us some information. So it said, here's some of the jobs we found, AI developer at Synaptic, salary 100 to 120K, location remote, etc. You guys get the idea, okay? So you can test this out. You can do all kinds of advanced stuff with this agent, but I just wanted to show you a quick example of like how this can actually be used in your AI kind of workflow rather than just simply from something like Claude Desktop. So anyways, guys, that pretty much wraps it up. I wanted to show you this MCP server. I think it is super cool. I also think just the value in understanding how to use the MCP servers is pretty interesting as well. And I'm excited to see kind of what we have in the future going here when more and more companies start creating these types of MCP servers. So massive shout out to Bright Data for sponsoring this video and providing this server. And I look forward to seeing you guys in another video.